Hello, this is Darrell Castle with today's Castle Report. This is Friday, the 13th day of September in the year of our Lord 2024. I will be talking about some of the people who have seen the light and decided to work for the election of Kamala Harris, perhaps the worst and most disgusting lying war criminal in American history, Dick Cheney, and his designated successor, his daughter Liz, went public with their endorsement of Kamala Harris. She must be so proud to have received such a ringing endorsement from such a gentleman as Dick Cheney. I know she's proud to have the endorsement because she said publicly that she was proud. No, wait a minute. On second thought, she didn't say she was proud. I don't want to misquote her. She said she was, quote, honored to have Cheney's endorsement. So, yay. The man we were calling literally Hitler a few years ago just endorsed us. What does that say about us? What does it say about me? Well, folks, I guess we'll just call that irrelevant for now. Joe Biden, before he developed dementia, described Cheney as the most dangerous vice president in U.S. history. Now, when he was forced out of the race in a palace coup, he left with his endorsement, a woman who then acquired the endorsement of the very dangerous Dick Cheney. I'm just speculating here, folks, but maybe Dick Cheney and Kamala Harris have found common ground as the most despised vice president. So, the news is now out that Dick Cheney and his daughter Liz are working to elect Kamala Harris. The situation is the latest demonstration that Washington has become a separate country from America. We are therefore ruled by a foreign cabal that some call the deep state, some might call the uniparty. This cabal has one thing in common, that is a hatred and fear of anything that might threaten the power of the deep state and might just dismantle it. That explains the unnatural fear of Donald Trump and speaks well of him. The Democrats just a few years ago chided Republicans for their continued embrace of Cheney. But now he was guest of honor at their January 6th commemoration. Not all Democrats love Cheney, though, so I suppose a few still try to keep some honor. Left-wing magazine Jacobin.com said this about the new marriage. Quote, compared to Dick Cheney's crimes against democracy, Trump is an amateur. Cheney reduced nations to rubble, shredded the Bill of Rights, enacted programs of surveillance, abduction, detention, and torture more in line with the state terrorism of military dictatorships than the norms of liberal democracy, end quote. Democrat author Chip Gibbons, quote, Dick Cheney is an enemy of democracy in America and a war criminal. His warm reception on the floor of Congress by Democrats yesterday at the January 6th Capitol, not only a commemoration, was shameful and disgusting, end quote. Cheney did much of his destruction for money, it appears. He did it for money. He supposedly made about $50 million from his Halliburton stock while America's youth were killing and dying in the deserts of the Middle East. Thus, an article in The Atlantic called Remembering Why Americans Loathe Dick Cheney. Quote, the United States had concluded that Iraq, Libya, and Iran supported terrorism and had imposed strict sanctions on them, yet during Cheney's tenure at Halliburton, the company did business in all three countries. In the case of Iraq, Halliburton legally evaded U.S. sanctions by conducting its oil service business through foreign subsidiaries that had once been owned by a dresser. With Iran and Libya, Halliburton used its own subsidiaries. The use of foreign subsidiaries may have helped the company to avoid paying U.S. taxes, end quote. The article went on to accuse Cheney of creating the surveillance state which set the stage for the Russiagate hoax and all the intelligence agency abuses that have been carried out against Donald Trump and other innocent Americans. I will add on my own that he set the stage for such corruption of the FBI that it was able to propagate the false flag, quote, insurrection that they invited Cheney to come celebrate with them. Cheney admitted in his memoirs that he was involved in constructing the spying system against Americans known as the terrorist surveillance program, years after they had been going along with it, and the Department of Justice reached the conclusion that parts of it were illegal. He admits to spying illegally on Americans and is now in It is now indisputable that he authored a program that spied on millions of innocent non-terrorist Americans without a warrant. He also wanted the program to continue after it was declared illegal. If you don't believe any of this stuff about Cheney, I advise you to read his memoirs for yourself. The book was published in 2011. It's entitled In My Time, a Personal and Political Memoir. The book tells the story of his 40 years in politics and covers his involvement in some of the most important events in our recent history. Some of those events were the 9/11 attacks, the war on terror, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, torture, which he called enhanced interrogation, many other things. He was assisted in writing the book by his daughter, Liz. Many of his contemporaries, such as Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice, say their private conversations with them were different from the book. I don't know about you folks, but it is really weird to see this man the Democrats called a warmonger, Darth Vader, Adolf Hitler, literally, even Satan, claiming he supports them and will vote for them, and encouraging others to vote for them. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had thoughts similar to mine. Quote, liberals take note. If you support Kamala Harris, you are now on the same side as Dick Cheney, end quote. Podcaster Kanakawa the Great said, quote, Democrats have called Dick Cheney a war criminal for 20 years. And now, all of a sudden, they're clapping like seals to get his endorsement, end quote. I will add that given the hatred, lies, and lawfare attacks against Trump and his supporters, Cheney fits right in with them. The best endorsement, the one I'm sure all good Democrats will treasure, came from the best comedian on the world political stage today, Vladimir Putin. While addressing the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok, he said that Russia's favorite son was Joe Biden. But unfortunately, he had departed the stage, so the one he left for us is now the chosen one. We all know that Joe Biden was instrumental in creating the Russia-China alliance as well as the BRICS economic alliance, so it makes sense that they would choose his natural successor. Quoting Mr. Putin, quote, I told you our favorite, if you can call it that, was the current president, Mr. Biden. He was removed from the race, but he recommended all his supporters to support Ms. Harris. So we will do the same. We will support her. Ultimately, the choice is up to the American people, and we will respect that choice. As for favorites, it's not up to us to determine that. It is, after all, the choice of the American people. He went on to say that her laugh is infectious. She laughs so expressively and infectiously that he presumes she is doing well. You probably know that Donald Trump could not sit on the sideline while people such as Dick and Liz Cheney, who together probably did more to damage America than anyone in recent memory, except the one who signed all those open borders executive orders. Quote, Dick Cheney is an irrelevant rhino along with his daughter who lost by the largest margin in the history of congressional races. They couldn't get Scooter Libby, who did so much for them but was so unfairly treated, pardoned. I did it. He's the king of endless, nonsensical wars, wasting lives, trillions of dollars, just like Comrade Kamala Harris. I am the peace president. Only I will stop World War III. What Liz Cheney did with the unselect committee of political losers is unthinkable. She and her unselects deleted and destroyed all evidence and information. It's gone. Much of it proved that Nancy Pelosi was responsible for J6. She didn't provide security. Cheney and the others should be prosecuted for what they did, but Comrade Kamala is even worse, end quote. I suppose that as an afterthought or as icing on the cake or whatever, Liz Cheney decided to also endorse Ted Cruz's opponent in the Texas Senate race. She endorsed Representative Colin Allred, the Democrat running against Cruz, not only endorsing him, but said she would be working on his behalf. The Cruz campaign pointed out that she lost her re-election campaign in Wyoming by a margin of 37 points, a record, I believe, for a sitting member of Congress. So her endorsement, Ted's opponent, did not frighten very many of them. There are so many things that Americans should be aware of and watch out for in this theater of the absurd in which we live. It all really does seem like theater because it's a show put on for the rest of us. Many of us normal people
see it the same way we view sports, as entertainment. Politics has taken on that atmosphere to many in the public eye. They fight, they scheme, they cheat, they lie, they steal to get their 15 minutes, as Andy Warhol used to call it. The problem is that now with the Fed, no gold standard or any other standard of measurement or limitation, there is literally no limit on the vote buying ability, especially of sitting office holders. If you and millions like you will vote for me, I will give you, loan you, forgive you, or whatever it takes to get the Constitution by the authority or not. So, it's posturing and fake fighting for the sake of political theater to entertain us. Keep deep staters in power, a process previously known to the Romans as bread and the circus. While all this is going on, there are things of vital importance, like due process and the rule of law at stake. It would be nice to have a politician who really believes in those things, in something besides power, and has the courage to defend it. I wonder how it feels to be a member, let alone a leader, of a political party, but certainly a candidate of that party, which is endorsed by the worst people on planet Earth. Yes, indeed, Kamala Harris can say proudly that one of the worst war criminals in American history and his evil daughter endorsed me. I said I was honored to have that endorsement. Democrats must really be starting to wonder about what they stand for. Now the queen of pop, Taylor Swift, has lent her name to the Dick and Liz Cheney bandwagon. I wonder if Taylor spent any time contemplating what it means to be in bed, figuratively speaking, with Dick Cheney. I will give the Democrats this. They've been able to attract some of the worst people to their cause. Dick and Liz Cheney, Vladimir Putin, although I admit Vlad was speaking tongue-in-cheek. Hamas, I mean, who wouldn't want to be on that list? Finally, folks, if Kamala Harris will really do all the wonderful things she tells us she intends to do, then why doesn't she just do them? Joe Biden is nowhere to be found. She's apparently the de facto president, so why doesn't she do something? I know why she doesn't, but I'm certainly certain my Democrat friends presume it's because she's applying with us for the job of head of state, leader of the deep state, destroyer of lives, enemy of freedom and truth. At least that's the way I see it. Till next time, folks, this is Darrell Castle. Thanks for listening.